Before we get started with our episode today, I just want to point out that this was, if we're going to do what we are planning to do, will be, episode 1, even though it's actually episode 4. But I guess with that out of the way, should we kind of get on with today's episode?
Let's get into it.
I would say this has been a long time coming, and it's something that I have been waiting so long for that I thought it would never happen. And I just got to say, it's just, as soon as I was able to confirm the news, I almost screamed like a fangirl. And I think you could, if you've been watching, keeping an eye out on things, you probably can figure out what I'm, really excited for.
Are we going to break the rule of no D4 DJ talk?
Maybe. Let's see if you can figure it out.
I'm guessing it's some new news on the upcoming D4 DJ, sort of season 2.
Well, you're close there.
Yeah.
But again, I am happy to announce, and I can't say this enough, that it's finally been confirmed. Season 2 of D4 DJ has been confirmed. And I've been, since the end of the first season, I've been dying to know if they were going to do a second.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to be dying to wait for the second season to come out, which would be winter of 2023. So it would be, summer over here?
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
And
cool.
I was just so excited.
Yeah. Nice.
Because again, I was kind of hearing word about something big happening, and I was like, okay, I'm going to check in onto this broadcast. And then, they announced, all mix. And then I think before I went to bed, I checked on Facebook and they kind of brought up all mix. And it said season 2 confirmed.
Right.
Especially when they didn't announce all mix, it's like, okay, this is definitely something big, but not as big as I was expecting because, even though I like to believe that I can understand Japanese, I can't understand it well enough that I could understand what's going on without the help of subtitles and that.
Sure, yeah.
So when they did announce it, it was like, okay, they kind of had, I want to call it like a gag order, but it was like kind of not reveal anything up until like this time and that, and I think it's probably lined up with the time when they announced it.
Yeah, right. Cool.
And I got to say, what's your thoughts on a second season of D4 DJ? Not only that, but why do you think they called it All Mix?
All right. Well, I think overall, definitely, it sounds like it's going to be a good idea. It was, from many different aspects, it got a lot of things right about, writing music and collaborating with other creative people. So it'll be interesting to see if they can continue that sort of realism in that aspect, as well as sort of, expand on the stories and of the characters, the existing ones, and some that got some honourable mentions within the show, and then obviously pop up in the game. But as to calling it all mix, I'm guessing that would mean that every unit will make some sort of appearance.
Yeah, because it's all 6 units are going to show up in all mix.
Yeah.
Although I like the name because it implies that, but
Yep.
at the same time, couldn't they have gone with like first mix, remix, or second mix?
Yeah, all mix. Obviously, it's a very very obvious way of getting the point across.
Not only that, but I think it's kind of expanding on the point of double mix, which I also can't wait to come out. And I've got to try and see if I can find a release date for.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting to see if they sort of tie in together. If things are sort of a continuation from first mix, or whether there's some timeline melding.
I think that could possibly happen, which I don't want to happen, because the way I know I haven't talked about this on the podcast, but the way I kind of see things going is having second season being kind of like the road to D4 Fest, and them having the third season as D4 Fest. Yeah. And I'm hoping they either do that or they have the second season as D4 Fest, but the problem is if you do that, then what you do afterwards?
That's a good question. I guess, that would sort of, I guess, finish off the series a little bit with, D4 Fest being the
penultimate event.
Yeah, for sure. Other than, I guess, it probably wouldn't even really work because it's just sort of doing the same thing over again. But yeah, other than sort of like the units themselves moving into more mentor roles of bringing other units up. But yeah, I guess in a way,
that would
basically,
be an interesting idea. Sorry for jumping in there.
I guess in a way it would be just sort of repeating what's already been done with I guess just a little bit more insight for the new units. But
I'll say if you were to do it that way, I think you could definitely go really more in depth about the making of the music and that.
Maybe, yeah,
and especially working out the choreography as well as the visuals.
Yeah, I guess you have already had that a little bit in first mix.
Well, there wasn't really much of a focus on kind of figuring out what's the best choreography, but definitely it explained the part of like making the music and that, as well as how to kind of be a bit of a DJ while showing you a few of those things.
Yeah.
But it's mostly focusing on the more technical aspects as well, minus kind of working on choreography, which I'm not a big fan of choreography, but it'd be interesting to kind of see them kind of show the light of the process of how, like, use this move here and then use this move there, and kind of figure it out, like, what's the best move at that point.
For sure, yeah. Which can definitely be key to a very good performance.
Definitely. Not only that, but I think that would be something for the theatre people to be able to enjoy.
Yes, for sure. Absolutely.
I'm curious, have you ever done any theatre?
No theatre performances. I've done a little bit of work in sort of theatre production, and sort of providing the music for a two different theatre sort of plays, but I've never been the actual on-stage performer.
Yeah, same here, but I've definitely performed for short films and that.
Yeah,
and kind of did a little bit of work behind the scenes, although I would have loved to actually just stay behind the camera and kind of help out there.
Yeah.
Although I think my performance could have been a little bit better looking back in hindsight, but I guess that's the best thing about working on stuff, is that you can just look back and like, I could have done this better, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And I perfectly nailed this.
For sure. And obviously, if it's something that you enjoyed, that you can always then continue pursuing it. And that's sort of definitely a big part of any creative field, is that, if you do it and you really like it, you keep sort of trying to get better. And, there's little points where, okay, this is very good. And then you sort of sit with it a little while, and then you move on to the next thing to see if you can sort of match it or top it.
Although I kind of would have liked to brought this up earlier, but the conversation was kind of going away where I didn't want to interrupt it. But
sure.
Technically, all 6 units did make an appearance in first mix.
Yeah.
Some more than others. Like, I think there was a brief scene in what episode was it? The episode's not coming to my head, but Ronde makes a very brief appearance just walking by, and I don't think it was that episode, but it's definitely early on.
Yeah.
Within the first half. Easy.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And then, like, all the others make kind of very, very minor appearances during the end credits.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. But obviously, this is going to be a really good opportunity to sort of, like, as I said, expand on those characters, actually, get them, into the show properly.
Definitely. Yeah. Although I can say that if, I guess this would be spoilers for when they get around to D4 Fest, Happy Orlando can't catch a break. Because you can kind of, throughout the show, they kind of almost beat everyone they had to kind of compete against, except for Piki, and just spoiled the... Well, I guess it's kind of obvious with the way I mentioned it. Yeah, Piki does beat them at D4 Fest, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, right. Cool.
Which, again, I kind of do have to feel sorry for Happy Orlando, but then where are they going to go, though, if they do beat Piki?
Yeah, as I sort of said, so if you have that goal where you're constantly chasing, trying to one up the other person or yourself, then once you reach that peak, it's unless
a very peaky peak.
a very peaky peak for sure. It can be hard. Definitely having the inspiration to push further and try and outdo yourself. But for me, it definitely comes back. But I think I'm a little bit different, where being a multi-instrumentalist as well as into music production as well, I can sort of jump around different genres. So
don't mind what's going on in the background. Totally nothing suspicious happening.
Cool. So,
but I guess you've got any theories though, even though I kind of already mentioned that.
Yeah, I think definitely your theory of double mix, and sort of leading up to all mix being sort of the road to D4 Fest, I think makes a lot of sense.
And actually, that's a good way to kind of allow you to get more content, is to have both, kind of all mix and double mix being kind of the road to D4 Fest.
Yeah.
Even really, this, although it feels like would probably be panning out at the runtime, is even have another season between them and then D4 Fest. But that's if you really want to extend things out. Yeah,
that's what I thought as well.
Although I'm not sure what you do for that season.
Yeah.
Although I guess if another theory I kind of have is double mix and all mix are going to kind of focus and flesh out the stories of all. Well, double mix is going to mostly focus on Rondo and Merm for ID. All mix is going to focus on all 6, but they're going to kind of flesh out the stories of those 6 units, and them kind of have another season that's the road to D4 Fest and D4 Fest. That's the only, I can't see going much past 4 seasons.
Yeah, because who's the other 2 units? There's Lyrical Lily and what's the other one?
Well, there's Scarlet Canary and Linux Eyes, but I don't think they meant, by when they mean all mix, meant them, because at that point they kind of disbanded.
Yeah.
But it would have been interesting to kind of actually have double mix be focusing on those 2 instead of Rondo and Merm for ID.
Yeah. I guess there is the opportunity for sort of like a prequel season as well, which could be sort of a good reflection of like how far technology has come in the realm of dance music and how it used to be created.
The prequel, season would be a good idea, especially focusing on those older units.
So it's an opportunity to get more information on the old units, as well as, again, like as I said, if they focus on the ideas of how music was created, 20, 30 years ago, and that specific type of dance music as well. It's definitely a very different realm, not having computers, so having to manually sample sounds and like a can opening.
I guess perfect timing.
Yeah, and or like trying to sort of take sounds from other people's records and things like that, which is obviously done quite a lot in EDM and hip hop especially. So that would be a pretty interesting take.
Oh yeah, I think I just love the idea, especially the way you proposed it. It would have been better than what I could have thought of. But even then, it'd be nice just to flesh out the story of those, again, older units, because I'm not sure if I'm just not looking in the right places or not looking hard enough, but there's not really a lot you can dig up on them.
For sure.
Except for like some just minor bits here and there.
Yeah. It would be pretty cool to get a bit more information. Plus, obviously, it could be a really good opportunity, sort of like what they did in the last round of the single releases, where some of the units looked back at some older sort of genres of music. There was definitely...
Oh yeah, like Photon Man, right?
Yeah, having a lot of influence more surrounding early 2000s sort of R&B. So yeah, it could
Although
be...
Moon 4 ID style's more kind of that older style anyway.
A little bit, yeah, definitely. So yeah, you could do the same thing, not just how the music was made, but then sort of do a bit of a expose on that that era of music as well, and sort of what made it
influential.
Yeah. So
not only that, but I'm looking forward to what kind of music they come up with, especially with double mix, because from what I've heard, they're going to do a collab song between Moan 4ID and Rondo, and I think it would be pretty good if they do it the way I think they're going to do it.
For sure. Theoretically, it could be pretty interesting.
Although I'm not sure if you've heard Moan 4ID's latest single, which is what is it? I Will Never Die, from their VIP Lagoon album.
I don't think I have.
I've listened to it. I'd say it's probably the best Moan 4D song I've heard so far, but I would like to listen to it a couple more times before coming to a conclusion.
For sure. Yep.
Actually, I'm curious. Has Peaky Peaky finally got number one spot for most listened to on Spotify? I don't think it has, but it'd have to be close, considering, again, it's all I've been listening to.
For sure.
And if anything, I'm actually enjoying it more now than I did then.
Yeah. If it isn't, it's definitely not too far off.
Yeah, but again, I can imagine they're just considering how hard it was to get it up into the number 2 spot.
Yes.
I'm going to see it's going to take that kind of Herculean effort get it to, the number 1 spot.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's see, top artist lifetime. It's telling me to hold on. Okay, this. Almost there. Come on. You said you were almost there. Just a bit. Almost there. Come on. Now tell me you hold on. Well, I'm not sure how hard I can hold on right now. I'm pretty much clamped to this desk.
It's a pretty pushy prompts you're getting there.
Yeah. I'm going to try rebooting it real quick.
Good idea.
Well, it should have worked straight away. Oh, what the...
So we've...
Yes. Okay,
so... you on it?
Yeah, it was just playing up.
Error.
Okay, tons of errors. Peaky Peaky still in second.
Yeah.
Although I wish it would tell me how.
Yeah.
Far behind, but I'd have to go to get in touch with Spotify.
Maybe.
But I feel like the process of doing that would be too much of a pain. Oh, we're back.
All right. So we've gone over some theories. What's like if you were to sort of pray for some fan service, what's some moments that you would want?
It's a bit of a double-edged sword, I think, in my opinion.
For sure.
Although I think I'd love some fan service, at the same time I think it would ruin my experience with D4 DJ.
Yeah. Is there like any interactions that you're sort of waiting for?
Like with some of the interactions between Noah and some of the other members from the franchise and that, it's a shame that you don't really get to see any of those kind of interactions in first mix, but I'm hoping you can get some of those interactions in all mix.
For sure.
I think I've showed you one such interaction, right?
Yeah, I think so.
It's the thing that me and we made joke about. Mm-hmm. One day we're going to be out in public and run into each other and we're going to shout that out loud. I could imagine everyone just looking at us like we're bloody crazy or something.
Maybe.
Either they were a bunch of bellends.
Mm-hmm. So if, I guess, if the rumours for that collaboration between Rondo and Merm 4ID are true, are there any other collaborations?
I'm not sure, and they're not really rumours considering the source I got them from was from pretty much from the company. And that.
Right. Yeah.
As a video they released a while ago.
Okay. Cool. Is there any collaborations that you would be interested in hearing?
I think Photo Maiden and Peaky Peaky would be interesting, although their sounds are very similar, but it'd just be interesting to see a blend of the two.
Yeah. I guess, it would be somewhat indistinguishable, but I guess, it'd be sort of more the combination maybe of the
more, kind of futuristic space feel of Photo Maiden with the more, again, aggressive and high pace of Peaky Peaky.
For sure. Yeah, and definitely the combination of vocals as well could be interesting.
Oh yeah, like as I said, Peaky Peaky and Photo Maiden are probably, when it comes to vocals, some of the best.
What about, this could be a weird one.
Although Happy Roundo too has really good vocals.
Yeah. What about Happy Around and Lyrical Lily?
Okay, that one is a bit of an odd one, but I think would be interesting to see what they would do with it.
I think it could work. I think the overall sort of emotion that both groups bring, a very sort of like happy, bouncy sort of vibe, you know, feel good sort of stuff, I think could be pretty cool. And yeah, sort of, I guess, bring a little bit more aggressiveness to Lyrical Lily, maybe bring a little
but
slow.
I guess the whole point of Lyrical Lily is still that conservative style.
Yeah, so maybe it could be a good way of like trying to get Happy Around to slow down a little bit.
I just don't think that would be possible.
Maybe not.
Because they're all going no breaks.
Pretty much. Cool. Any other thoughts? Any other theories?
That's going to be interesting because although I do have a theory is that, a lot of, well, especially when it comes to the leading up to D4 Fest, is that I think a lot of the older characters in the franchise would probably start to play a bit more of a key role than they do. So they'd probably come just more than just being kind of support cast, I guess.
For sure.
Considering that they kind of had some involvement with whilst getting D4 Fest back up and running again. Some more directly than others.
Yes. So yeah,
it'd be interesting to kind of have that as like a little secret thing that's happening in the background. It's like kind of if you don't, you're going to miss it if you don't notice, but it's like a nice little detail if you do notice them kind of setting it up. But then the characters that you'd probably be able to focus the most on, though, kind of didn't have that much direct involvement with it.
Yeah, I guess
the one that would be easiest to focus on would be I think Raijin, and Ari. You were the ones that are running the Vinyl Cafe. Yeah, it'd be easier to focus on them, but they didn't have as much direct involvement with bringing D4 Fest back. Yeah. You would be looking at I'm trying to think what his relation is to Shinobu. I think it's like her uncle or something like that. Yeah, had a bit more direct involvement, and then Kun would, which it feels weird saying it, but it's like Kun, and I think it's pronounced similar to like that. Yeah, that. I just had to clarify that there.
Yes.
Had more direct involvement.
Yeah, I guess.
I kind of invited them along for old time's sakes.
For sure. Yeah, I guess.
Considering they would have used to probably compete at that event.
Yeah, for sure. Like with the cafe owners there, I think they definitely had an involvement within First Mix. It's sort of more or less passive.
Yeah. But I just love that scene where Raijin just put some music on and it's either Uni or Ari going off like, hey, we don't need this. Yeah. Well, especially when Ari the scene when Ari goes off at him and he's like, darn.
Yes. But then there was that moment later in First Mix as well where they offer that sort of little underground practice space for them to use as well. So sort of they are somewhat sort of nurturing them and their talent.
Which I think is a good thing because that still, justifies their reason for being in the story in that.
Yes, for sure. They're just not sort of placeholder characters.
Even though, again, it doesn't happen in the events of the game story, but it'd be awesome to kind of see the new guard up versus the old guards, so to speak.
That's an interesting idea.
But with how it plays out in the story, that doesn't really happen, but I'd love to see such a thing happen.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool, actually. I think that could, definitely if they did some sort of prequel season, they
could have done that to set something like that up, but then they kind of deviate from the story that's in the games, which...
Yeah.
Well, I guess with First Mix, it's kind of in a weird limbo state because... the best way to describe it is it takes place before the events you would see in the game.
Yes.
So, for example, Happy Around those Chapter 1 story would probably, if I had to guess, would take place kind of shortly after the events of First Mix.
Yeah. Yes, okay.
So if I had to put a time on the game, it'd be kind of around about, after the events of First Mix.
For sure, yeah. Yeah, okay.
Well, but then I think the stories probably have different starting points, but that's the only one where I can kind of anchor it down to.
Yeah, and I guess that'll be something to definitely watch out for, as well as if, the sort of the narrative that they've supplied in the game, if that will follow through to the following series.
And that's also another thing I'm worried about, is Ormic's going to kind of, if it goes down the road I think it's going to go down, will it cover those events that they kind of play out throughout those story chapters, or will it do its own thing? Yeah,
and sort of like what will be canon? Is the game going to be canon, or is the show?
I have a feeling that both are considered canon, but
them
also you got to take into consideration the manga, which I've got to get around to getting my hands on, but I'd have to get it from Japan, and then it's going to be Japanese. So I would be like looking through it. I'd be like, oh, pretty pictures. What the fuck's going on?
Yeah.
Pardon my French.
It'd be a little bit hard. You'd have to translate every page.
Yeah. And I do have an app where I could do that, but with how dodgy it is, I don't think it would help at all.
It would be a long and arduous process, but could be insightful, I guess.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And well, I guess we probably should start moving on to something else.
Yeah.
Well, it does feel like we're kind of running a course, but it was not the other day, but the day before. As I was coming back from my mate's place, I ran into this fella and had probably the most interesting conversation I've had in quite a long time.
Okay.
And it's about a subject that I'm not a fan of talking about or talk about that much. And well, obviously that's religion. Who talks about religion much this day and age?
For sure.
But I think it was so refreshing because he was kind of on a similar page as to I. Although he's definitely a lot more of a religious person than I am. He's kind of not like extremely religious and takes more of a middle ground. Right. And is definitely kind of open to the best way I can describe him is like, believe in what you believe in, and I'll believe in what I believe in.
Sure.
But then kind of some of the ideas he proposed and that as a part of the kind of the exchange we had were definitely, I think could work and would be very interesting, especially kind of on the point of what makes certain actions good and what makes certain actions evil.
Sure. Okay.
Because as he puts it, as time goes along and as society changes, what we define as good and evil changes as well, meaning that actions people have done in the past that weren't considered evil are now considered evil, but by today's standards. But then does that really mean that person's evil, even though when he did those acts, it wasn't considered evil back then?
Right.
And he makes a really good example of World War II. It was like what was good and evil depending on what side you were on during the Second World War.
Yeah, for sure. That's an interesting question.
And he kind of proposed using the Bible as kind of a solid foundation to judge what is good and what is evil. Which I definitely kind of agree with him because the Bible's kind of set in stone, so to speak, but then people's interpretations of it kind of does cause that to have a few problems, but it's relatively fixed.
Yeah, I guess not having read the Bible or any religious text, the overall sort of idea is that I get is that there's these stories, these fables, sort of trying to tell you or give you advice on how to live a pretty good life as a citizen. And I think, even though it was written quite long ago, from the stories that I've heard, they still ring pretty true. There is then some argument to say that maybe sort of like some of the translation hasn't really come through as accurate because it obviously was written in now quite ancient languages.
Yeah. Not only that, but I think some of the points and tenets that it has by today's standards are kind of, well, not good, but then that also leads to the problem with should we be completely faithful to it, or do we make some exceptions to some of the rules in it?
Yeah, and I guess that's definitely where
That's probably where the hardest part of trying to adopt it as a baseline of good and evil is going to be hard.
Yeah, I think definitely, some of the general stories make a lot of sense. They're good guidelines. But yeah, obviously there's other things where, when it comes to women or certain other, people from different races, or sexual preferences, things like that.
Yeah, that's going to be the big question about it.
Yeah, and that's where you sort of you have to again take that sort of more modern approach, and be able to assess it for what it is, and I think
I think it would be, even though it would make a good foundation, I don't think it could work if we accepted it. Or said 100% this is good and this is evil.
Yeah.
I think there would have to be some leeway, especially
for sure
with how much has changed from them and now.
Yeah, and obviously you've got the Old Testament and the New Testament as well. So, if you tried to follow the Old Testament, word for word, you wouldn't get too far in life, I don't think. Even in that world, there's been some evolution of how to interpret the texts, and in a modern age.
Not only that, but a lot of people also do discount religion when there's people that have got really high power when it comes to that religion, kind of abusing said power. But then,
for sure,
actually, one of the key points of Christianity in that is, again, being able to forgive a person, but not kind of leaving yourself open to be hurt again by that person. And that's the whole point behind it, is just, again, being able to forgive people, but not letting your guard down at the same time.
For sure. It's,
that's, I think, the key cornerstone in that.
Definitely.
And that's how we kind of branched off to what defines as good and what is defined as evil.
Whew. I guess it definitely an age-old question. For
me, I kind of go with an approach where there's no such thing as pure evil or pure good.
Yeah,
but it adopts more of a kind of, I guess, a grey area a lot.
For sure, it's sort of.
It's not like there's nothing overly good and nothing overly evil, but kind of just actions that people deem as good and evil.
And obviously everyone's going to have their, that sliding scale, and everyone's going to place different events on that scale as well. So it was actually interesting podcast.
I'll say, probably have to do that for another podcast on that.
Yeah, there's one that I listened to a couple of months ago, sort of this mini-series that this Australian comedian YouTuber was doing, where he was sort of having these very serious conversations with a panel of people, and he would ask them sort of a series of questions, and everyone would answer.
I was wondering if it was Isaac Battlefield.
No,
because that's one Australian comedian that comes to my head.
Yeah,
but it would have been interesting him kind of asking questions to a panel though.
Yes, that would be interesting. No, it was Neil Kolhatkar. So he's from Sydney. He's been around for quite a while. Definitely a big on YouTube in the sort of mid-teens. But he would. What was it called? But yeah, so like the overall idea was that he would ask these very sensitive sort of questions, and one was sort of along that line of are these actions evil, and then he would sort of break it down and be like, if a woman under 18 was to do that action, would you still see it as evil? Or if a man under 18 would do that, would it still be evil? Would a man doing it under the reason of self-defense. Is that still evil now? And everyone would answer sort of anonymously, sort of like they would all close their eyes and then sort of raise their hand if they thought it, if they agreed with the question. And at the end, there would be this sort of polling, and people would get their opportunity to explain why they gave that answer.
I was saying that's actually a smart idea.
Yeah. And, it was a pretty sort of diverse group of people. I think there was the host, Neil, and then maybe 4 or 5 others, and sort of mixture of different races, different ages, different genders. So
and hopefully different walks of life too.
Yeah. Like one of the guys was a guy from Russia, actually. I think he was, and I think he was in his late 20s or early 30s or something like that. And then there was a woman from Queensland in her early 30s, and there was quite a large range of people.
Well, again, even though this would be interesting to kind of go down, there is kind of a topic I want to quickly move on to.
Sure.
Even though it's just me having a gripe with this YouTuber that was making content and that.
Right.
But that's more because I guess just my expertise on the kind of the matter he was covering, and that was his. I can't remember the channel's name, but it was top 10 best weapons in Red Dead Redemption 2.
Okay.
And it's just some of the terminology and some of the wording he used was like, I would like to facepalm right now, but then there's a lot of equipment that I could do some serious damage to if I was to smash my head into the desk.
Sure.
It's like, I'm going to start off with probably the biggest gripe I have with it, which was the pronunciation of Carcano.
Right.
Which that's how it's supposed to be pronounced. It's supposed to be pronounced as Carcano, but he pronounces it as Carcano.
Okay.
Which is just like, kill me.
Sure.
Not only that, but when he was talking about Midnight's pistol, he said it was all gold, yet it wasn't.
Right.
He was like, are you blind?
Yeah, okay.
Like the frame and that was gold, but it looked like it was either silver or nickel for the bolt, and the hammer was probably blackened.
Right, okay. Interesting.
Not only that, but he referred to it as, I'm not sure if it was for that weapon or some other weapon, as a gold finish, which it's kind of hard to have a gold finish. It would probably be gilded gold or something, or made out of gold, or that it's not a good idea to make a barrel out of gold because it doesn't handle pressure as well as...
No.
So it'd probably be more like a kind of a gilded or kind of leaf gold, which is just essentially just putting gold over the original thing.
Sort of, plated in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not only that, but I think he didn't refer to the engravings as a finish as well, which they're not, they're engravings.
Yeah.
The only thing you could really kind of call a finish would be a blued or, like, again, nickel finish.
Sure.
Which I guess you can kind of say that with some of the metals and that.
Yeah.
And again, the varnish and that, you can call as finish because you would use varnish to finish off wood in that.
Yeah, for sure.
Although in the game I do like to believe that, even though it's just a different kind of varnish, that you're actually using a different type of wood.
Uh-huh.
But then if that's the case, it'd be a lot more expensive to change the type of wood you're using for just a stock of a gun.
For sure. I guess there might be a difference between, say, like if you were to engrave your initials or something on a gun compared to, an actual artistic pattern that was put there originally. Maybe that's sort of how he came to that conclusion.
Yeah, not only that, but the worst offence he committed was with, I can definitely confirm with his first entry, it was Micah's pistol saying its stats were some of the best yet. I did some looking to myself. I didn't check the thing he used to kind of get the stats, but they didn't line up.
Yeah, okay.
It said highest damage. Its damage is comparable to the Cattleman, and I think the Schofield does a little bit more damage than the Cattleman.
Right. Yeah.
And then I think there was a few other stats too that were a bit off.
Right. So what you're saying is he went in maybe with some opinion, but then on the things that he that should have been very much more well defined and actual definite to, you know, the statistics. He was off quite a bit.
Not only that, but the double action revolver, in my opinion, is the worst weapon in Red Dead Redemption 2. Mm-hmm. And the Marcus revolver it's essentially a double action revolver and has some better stats.
Sure.
So that.
Yeah.
But I guess with the higher damage combined with the high rate of fire of the double action, I think it would be pretty decent. Although I think the accuracy of the double action is also a little left to be desired too.
Sure. Yeah.
I'll say worst weapon in Red Dead Redemption 2.
It's been a little while since I played, so I'm trying to remember. I guess it usually is. What is it? I mean, it usually is one of the sort of like lower end pistols, or there is always that like the rifle that you can find everywhere, which sort of like it's always like your starting weapon or something like that. I can't remember the actual the names.
Well, I think the first repeater you get is the I think they refer to it as the Spencer repeater. Well, that's what it's based off of, the Spencer carbine.
Yeah, it might be that.
It's actually not too bad. It definitely does get obsoleted by later repeaters, but it's pretty good if you know what you're doing. Yeah,
for sure. Definitely probably the early pistols as well.
I'll say here's probably a bit of a hot take. Mm-hmm. The bolt action rifle sucks.
I don't disagree, but
do you know what the funniest thing is? I find the Springfield rifle much better than the bolt action.
I think I agree. Yeah.
Although the downside is with a bolt action you got 5 shots.
Yeah.
But it's a single shot for the Springfield.
Yeah, that is really the only one thing.
I think otherwise their stats are about comparable.
I think so, from memory. As I said, it's been a while, but yeah.
Not only that, but I wasn't a fan of this one statement you made when he was talking about the rare rolling block rifle, where you said, you can bring down large animals with one shot, but I can bring them down one shot with a Springfield rifle.
Yeah. If you hit them right, for sure.
But that's also because I probably spent more time hunting the game than playing the actual game. Which I just realised that's impossible because you would have to play the game to be able to hunt in the game.
Yeah, bit of a double-edged sword there.
Yeah. But still, that just goes to show, again, well, not only... But also, I guess, since I spend a lot of time in the early game just hunting, I would be using predominantly the Springfield rifle. Yeah. So by the time you get the bolt action later on in the game, I've gotten so good with the Springfield, I guess it's just hard to kind of go over, and that's probably why I dislike the bolt action so much.
For sure. Yeah, that is a pretty good point.
Because when you use a weapon enough times, you get very proficient with it, and it's just hard to switch out to a different weapon.
For sure. It'd be like, using the Springfield for the entire game and then switching to the bow.
Yeah. Although I think that would be about comparable.
Maybe.
I don't use the bow that much, but it's fun when I get to use it every now and then.
Yeah, obviously, if you can't afford the small animal ammo,
the varmint rifle.
Yeah, the varmint rifle,
which I think actually its real life counterpart was designed by John Browning.
Right.
I think a good chunk of the guns in the game were designed by John Browning.
Probably.
It just shows you how prolific he was around that time period.
Yeah.
Like semi-auto shotgun, which is based off the Auto 5, designed by John Browning.
Right.
The pump-action shotgun, which is my favourite shotgun in the game and in real life, the Winchester Model 1897, also designed by him.
Sure. Yeah.
And this kind of doesn't really count, but I'm trying to think of what they called it in Red Dead 2. It's not the Lynchfield, because the Lynchfield's the 1860 Henry. It's the other one you get before that. The Lancaster?
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
That is based off the 1866 Winchester, which wasn't designed by John Browning, but the later Winchesters were.
Ah, right.
Like the 1895, I think.
Right. So the predecessor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So kind of technically, if they did add the 1895. And then the lever action shotgun was, I'm pretty sure, also designed by him.
Right.
And then, I can't remember what they call it in the game, but it would be the FM 1903. I think they call it the M1899 in the game.
Right.
That was also designed by John Browning. So you can see that's already a good chunk of the weapons just designed by him.
For sure.
I think there's probably a couple more that I may have missed, but I think that's the vast majority of them.
Yeah. Cool.
Hell, actually, the history behind a lot of the weapons in Red Dead Redemption 2 is a lot more interesting in the game than itself, which is saying a lot.
There is, definitely some of those things which people might consider just sort of little things to round out the story. Definitely have a little bit more information there. So yeah, definitely with the weaponry. Definitely with like even like the clothing or when you go and get like food at some of the pubs and stuff. Yeah, like there's just a lot of those little details which
just help with the world building.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, when you go into places like Saint Denis where they're a little bit more built up and there's like a lot of social sort of things of that time happening.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool getting that little window into time.
My question is, did you pay $50 for that book to get rich quick?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did. Yeah.
Yeah, I did too, just to see kind of how full of shit it was.
Yeah,
it's pretty full of shit.
Yes. Yeah, I love the
I guess you can tell he was kind of full of shit. Just look at the state of his clothes.
Yeah, for sure. It's like if you followed the own, what you're preaching, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be trying to sell a book.
Yeah,
because you would be rich.
Not only that, but if you found a way to make money real quick in that, and enough people know about it, someone's going to step in and shut down that loophole or such.
Probably, yeah. So
if you did learn how to make money quick, you'd kind of keep it to yourself.
Yes, yeah, you wouldn't be boasting about it. So yeah, there's definitely some really great little Easter egg and things like that throughout the entire game.
Although some complaints I do have when it comes to weapons out of Red Dead Redemption 2 is that, by the epilogue, a lot of the weapons that are in the game would actually exist at that point, but there are quite a few guns that wouldn't exist before the epilogue. The semi-auto should not exist until the epilogue, in my opinion. Because the epilogue's around about 1900, bit after.
Yeah.
Which, the Auto 5 came into existence in 1900, and I think the events before the epilogue was like 1899.
Yes.
So there would be prototypes around, but I don't think you'd find it in a shack of some thieves and that.
Yeah. I do remember, maybe I'm just making this up, but I'm pretty sure they did mention maybe that it was like a prototype or something like that.
I don't think.
But yeah, I don't think there would be a lot around.
Like, it would be one or two prototypes, and they'd say they'd be tightly locked up, so why would they be in a shack in the middle of but nowhere?
For sure.
Hello, my friend.
Yes.
Not only that, but in a state where it's buggered.
Yeah, for sure.
Because if it's a weapon that's in prototype stage, it would be fairly new, so why is it now rusted to hell like it's been, around for decades?
Yeah, there is definitely that. Yeah, I guess, there is definitely a lot of sort of little funny things in there as well. Like you have the I think, is it the Wolfman or is it like Dracula or something like that?
The vampire.
The vampire, yeah. There's
I haven't started looking for the event yet, but I'm going to do that in this run.
Yeah, and then
once I stop hunting, that is.
Yeah. And then there's
I think at one point I went to the trapper and I had a bit over a dozen perfect deer pelts.
Yep.
That just shows you the kind of, deer is quite common to come by, but then I had probably about half a dozen other perfect parts of other things.
Sure. Awesome. And then
I know for one bit I kind of almost did just a genocidal war against birds. So just herd of birds just pulled out the bum rifle and was like bang, 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 bang. So the best way to describe it was see a flock of birds. So anyway, I just started blasting.
Yeah.
I had to do that.
For sure. But yeah, like there's the scientist as well.
And that
he's
was an interesting strange mission.
Yeah, and like his little lab where he's trying to reanimate the robot sort of thing.
Well, say, wasn't there one time where you had to kind of run around in the middle of the storm to do something for him? That was fun.
Yes. Where he's trying to harness the lightning from the lightning storm. You have to connect a bunch of things. Some fun little things that maybe a bit more out of or not in date yet, I guess.
But again, just to tell you how interesting the history behind some of the weapons of Red Dead Redemption 2 is, I must give the example of one of the ones that have a more interesting history, the Springfield rifle.
Right.
Because even though it's based off the Springfield trapdoor, I think a lot of the early trapdoors were just converted from 1861 Springfield rifles.
Right.
I think it refers to it as a model 1874, and I think they may have done conversions beforehand. I think maybe 74 is when they actually just started making them from the ground up.
Yeah, okay.
Although it makes sense because it'd be a lot cheaper and easier just to take a rifle that you've got, an old rifle you've got in stock and convert it.
Yeah, for sure.
Then build it from scratch.
Yeah, that starting point.
And it wouldn't take much.
No.
Because again, all you have to do is just cut out a bit of the back end and then slot the add the braces for the trapdoor and then add the trapdoor itself.
Right. Yeah.
Hell, you didn't even have to convert the mechanism that much.
Yeah, someone that obviously knows what they're doing could do it pretty easily with the right tools.
I'm not sure. It'd been interesting if I think they may have even converted a few at the Springfield Armory, which was the ones that were making the 1861s, and then they converted them over to the trapdoors, which would be interesting. Although it's kind of sad the state the Springfield Armory has become, because there's now two. There's the company, which is absolute dog shit, and then you've got the no longer functional Springfield Armory, which that company takes its name from, and I feel like it kind of dishonors the name a bit, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, I think they didn't even design their own pistol. They built a design that was from Croatia or something like that.
Okay.
And I know it caught a lot of flack.
Right.
But I guess it makes sense. It's an American company that's taking a name from one of the most well-known armories in US history. Now is making guns that were from designs that were not from America, and I can see that would piss off a lot of Americans.
Yes, for sure. Definitely, especially when you have things like the Civil War and stuff like that, where they're trying to push out Europe and all that sort of thing. So for that sort of embrace from a pretty American company of European technology.
Not going to do well. But another weapon that sort of has a bit of interesting history, and I'll go into real brief, is the Lamat revolver.
Right.
Which actually does exist in real life, if you're wondering. So
okay.
It's an actual thing. It is, and it works just like it would in real life.
Yeah.
So it is both, a 9-shot revolver and a single-shot shotgun underneath that's holding the cylinder in place.
Yeah.
And it would probably be a bit longer to reload than it is in the game, although I think its reload is pretty slow.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Which makes sense, because after you fight all of it, you'd have to take all the caps off.
Mm-hmm.
Then, pour the powder down, pour the bullets down, and that's for the cylinders, and then put the caps on those.
Right.
But then you have to pour powder down the shotgun barrel, put some wadding in, put the shot in, and then put some more wadding on top, and then ram that down, and then bring the hammer back and put the cap on for that, and then you're good to go again. I think the reload's a bit too quick in the game, but it's been a while since I used it.
Yeah. It's,
But I just like the idea is like, did I fire 8 or did I fire 9? And then it doesn't matter if you fired either because you can just switch over the shotgun and blow them away.
Yes.
I can just imagine a Wild West Dirty Harry with one.
That would be interesting. Because, it's sort of a novelty thing. Definitely the type of weapon that, the evil villain would have. And
Not only that, but it's as simple as bring the hammer back and flip a little thing down and then he'll strike the primer for the shotgun.
Right. Yeah. Interesting.
And actually, it was a weapon made for the Confederates and was used by the Confederates in the Civil War.
Right.
I don't think they made many in-house. A lot of them were shipped over from Europe and the ones they got managed to run through the blockade and that.
Right.
So even then, there weren't many made and not many probably got through to them.
For sure.
But it would have definitely been a good weapon to have until you had to reload it.
Yeah.
Especially if you got into some close quarters fighting, you can just obliterate someone with a shotgun at near point blank range.
Definitely. It has some multi-purpose use in the right situations.
Yeah. I think what I'd do is I'd probably have a pair of them on me.
Yeah.
So again, after expending all 9 shots plus the underbarrel shotgun, I can just pull out the other one and start blasting with that.
Sure. Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I have to reload 2 of them, but then I don't have to pause for a long bit to reload and then start firing again.
Yeah.
So that means if I'm in a situation where I need to get rounds down range, I can just quickly put one away and pull the other out.
Yes, for sure.
So you could probably dual wield, but then you'd have the problem of now having to reload. It's just a way of just expending all rounds, switching over to the other gun and expending all rounds, then starting the reload when it's more safe to do so.
Yes. That would
But I'm just surprised with how the Confederate economy was. They were able to not only afford to get these things manufactured, but them shipped over. And are willing to risk those shipments getting intercepted.
Yeah.
I think there was like a bit over 3,000 of them made.
Right.
So
right.
An original one would be really hard and probably fairly expensive to come by.
For sure.
Not only that, but I think I've seen one example where the loading handle broke, but I'm not sure if that was an original or a replica. But I can see that its loading mechanism being a bit fragile too, though.
Yeah, especially if it's the first of its kind. So generally going to have its problems. Unless it went through a very long and arduous development period.
I don't think it had that much time, although I think it was kind of developed before the Civil War, but it kind of came to not quite prominence, but kind of start to actually really see some use during the Civil War.
Yep, for sure.
But as you can see there, it's just, again, good example of just there being a really interesting history behind weapons and that.
Yeah.
Especially some of the guns that you think, they don't really exist, but they do.
For sure.
It's just, there's that wacky kind of period where you can see some interesting guns.
Yeah.
Like the Spencer carbine was definitely ahead of its time.
Right.
It being lever action, but also having a cheap magazine. And it's also very unconventional by having the magazine in the stock.
Right.
Which is something that didn't really get carried all along. And they kind of went the Henry route, which is just having the tube underneath the barrel.
Yes.
Which just makes it a lot simpler and easier mechanism for loading.
Yeah, for sure.
I think, although they did go overboard with the Evans carbine, look at the Evans repeater.
Yeah.
Which is also in the game.
Yes.
In my opinion, it's probably up there as one of the best repeaters. It's damage-wise, it's not that great, but just because of its insane mag capacity, you could just dump and take out a bajillion people.
Yeah.
Especially if you pull off a few headshots here and there.
Yes, for sure.
Although the downside is it takes forever to reload, but when you have to load 22 rounds by hand, it would take a while.
For sure.
Considering you'd have to load a round in, and I like actually the attention to detail of that. You'll see as he puts a round in, he will rack the lever and then put a round in, rack the lever, and that's actually how you'd really load it. So you shove one in, rack it, load another one in, rack it, load another one in, rack it, and do that again 20 times. I think its mag capacity is probably a little high for its real-life counterpart.
Right.
But I wouldn't be surprised if it's kind of in the ballpark. And actually, fun fact, I think the person that came up with the weapon was a dentist, of all things.
Right.
Although I do not recommend using it to drill out your teeth.
Definitely not. Yeah, that's interesting.
Actually, the history behind even just the Lynchfield and the Lancaster, because their history's kind of entwined.
Right.
Which is really interesting because, hell, they're even entwined with the volcanic pistol.
Oh, okay, yep.
So essentially, the Henry and the Winchester are essentially just rifle versions of the volcanic pistol.
Ah, right.
Because, the volcanic pistol was made under the Volcanic Pistol Company. It went bankrupt. Then I think some people bankrolled it again, one of them being I think textile manufacturer, or more specifically a shirt manufacturer, and I think his name was Oliver Winchester.
Right.
The Volcanic Pistol Company went under again, and then Oliver Winchester brought it out all completely in that, and then started back up gun production, and that's how you get the Winchester Arms Company.
Right.
And then I think I'm not sure if it was towards the end of the second run of the Volcanic Pistol Company or the start of the Winchester Company, you'd get the 1860 Henry, which is the Lynchfield. Ah,
okay. Yep. Interesting.
Which I don't think the game does it justice. Like, it does detail how you load it, which it loads very similar to the Volcanic Pistol. There's a guide that you lift up to a certain point, and then you just twist the end and then start putting rounds down.
Right.
But the cool thing about that is that actual little thing you'd use to lift up the tube spring and that also can be used as an ammo indicator, because as you shoot and cycle, since it's attached to the spring, it will move with the spring.
Ah, okay.
So if you're not careful and you're shooting, you can actually have an ammo failure defeat, because the thing you would use to open it up, to bring it up, to open it up to reload, would actually catch on your hand. So you'd have to either shoot it with your hand really close, or as you realize, after you fight a few rounds, okay, it's getting close to empty, and you kind of would have to move your hand probably past it.
Sure.
To stop it from catching on your hand and failing to feed.
Right.
It's just a neat little thing. I've fired it a bunch, and I'm not sure if the little tagging actually follows it in that. But it would have been nice detail if they did add. I might have to go back and check again.
Yep.
It would have been with the same thing with the volcanic pistol, but I don't see why you would hold a volcanic pistol like a rifle, though.
No.
Although I do have a gripe with the volcanic pistol in the game, where you can use it single-handed, which, from what I've heard, you kind of need both hands to be able to operate the lever and that, just because it was that stiff.
Ah, right.
So you can go bang, wonk, wonk, bang, wonk, wonk. You would actually have to kind of two-hand it.
Yeah, right.
Which would kind of defeat the purpose of being able to dual-wield it.
Yes.
It'd only be like one shot, and then be like, oh, wait, put one away and then cycle one.
Yeah.
Put that away, pull out the other one, cycle it, and okay, good to go again.
Yeah. And I guess that sort of explains why, or how it evolved into those rifles as well.
I think if the grip was a bit longer and it had a longer lever, so you had a bit more leverage, I think you could probably single-hand it.
Yeah.
But you can see how the volcanic pistol evolved into the Henry rifle.
For sure.
And then how the Henry rifle evolved into the Winchester rifle.
Yeah. Cool.
Actually, I think Henry Tyler, which was the bloke that developed the Henry rifle, was the head armourer or chief armourer of the Winchester Company for a bit, until he did something stupid and got completely shafted, and they brought someone else in, because he was like, okay, I think it was something to do with rights and that. He's like, okay, you can have the rights to this company and that, but then kind of didn't really have the kind of almost buying, like having a shell company that's pretty much worth nothing, and that got him completely shafted. I can't remember the story that well, and I'm just kind of doing it off the top of my head. So I'm probably somewhat right, somewhat wrong.
Yep.
I probably need someone in the audience to double check.
For sure.
Although I think this information would be a bit of a pain to come by. But then a fellow by the name King became the head armourer of the Winchester Company and developed the King's Loading Gate system, which is what you'd see in the 1866 Winchester, which is in Red Dead Redemption 2, also nicknamed the Yellow Boy because of its yellow receiver.
Ah, right.
But it would feature the King's Loading Gate system, which is even to this day still being used on lever guns. So that just shows you how effective it was.
For sure.
Because it's a simple, just get it around, shove it through the loading gate, and keep doing that until the magazine's chopped up, instead of having to grab the guide, lift the guide all the way up, open it up, and then drop the rounds in and close it, and then let it back down. Because the problem with that system is since you need a cut for the guide to go down, dirt and shit can get up and jam up the springs and that.
Right.
Not only that, but if you were to partially load it and then close it up and you let the spring down, it's going to smack into the rounds. It's probably hard enough to set the rounds off, which not good thing to happen.
Definitely not. No.
But with the Kingsgate loading system, it's as simple as just go wonk, 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 wonk.
Yep. Cool.
Totally accurate noises.
Yes. Can sample them for the next Red Dead game.
Yeah. Yeah, hit me up, Rockstar.
Yeah.
I just have it as like a little, I guess, joke gun that just makes those noises.
Yes. For sure.
Yeah, and it's like cycles will be like tunk tunk. And fire's like punk, tunk tunk, punk, tunk tunk, punk.
Yeah. Nice. Cool.
Well, I guess that would be, if it was an air, kind of make those sounds.
Yeah.
Although by the sounds of it, when you're cycling and it's making that kind of noise, it would have some serious mechanism behind it because it would have to be something real beefy to kind of make that, chunk, chunk noise.
Yes, for sure. Cool.
Although I think we could probably spend all day kind of covering the history of the weapons in the game.
Definitely.
So should we kind of cut it off here?
Yeah. We'll wrap this one up.
Yeah, I'll say any things you kind of want to add to it before we leave off?
No, I think I'm good.
You sure?
Are
you really sure?
Maybe I'm forgetting something.
Let's say. I guess we'll let you wrap it up then if you got nothing else.
Sure. All right. Well, as mentioned at the start of the episode, this will be episode 1, the official episode 1 of the...
Not official, but I guess timeline-wise, it is the first one.
Yes. So it'll be the...
So officially
first.
It's the 4th episode.
The first released episode to the world, so
I guess we should just title this The New Hope or something.
maybe. Yeah. Actually, that could be good. So yeah, thanks for...
But wouldn't that be a bit misleading?
Maybe. Thanks for joining in to the Some People podcast.
Episode 4.
Episode 4, sort of.
Kind of.
Kind of.
Maybe.
And we'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, hopefully. Might take us a bloody year or so.
Точно тут это было. Стою я вчера, в общем. Сигарету курю, никому не мешаю, и вдруг, откуда ни возьмись, такая бешеная машина. Ну, примерно вот так вот, ну, та желтая была. Ну, что, завтра на этом же месте